Hey, what is up? The Leafs Convo back in business for Thursday, October 22nd, 2020. The presentation sponsored by Oakridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakridgeFord.com, 0% now on most models. The 2021s are just around the corner. Get at me and I'll let you know how you can save on the last batch of 2020s. You can do that in community or through Twitter at I am Norman James. The 2021 Bronco is at Oakridge Ford today. I'll have some pictures on YouTube and also on Twitter. I'm Norm along with Mike, Ilya Mikheyev, Mr. A. 2-year contract extension courtesy of Kyle Dubas and the Intelligentsia at 40 Bay. Mikheyev's an exciting player. Glad to see him locked up for the next few years.
Yeah, and good morning, Norm. It was a compromise, and I wasn't surprised that, obviously most players that go to arbitration settle before the hearing, because once the hearing happens, they're locked into either what the player offered or what the team offered. And the gulf between Mikheyev asking for $2.7 million on a 1-year deal and the Leafs asking for $1 million on a 2-year deal was pretty wide. So they settled not even in the middle. The cap hit was the AAV is 1.645 a year for 2 years, 1.1 million in the first year, 2.19 million in the second year. It's a good deal, especially since Mikheyev played half a season. He had I think it was 20-game stretch where he didn't score a goal, but he just started to pick things up just before he had the wrist laceration in late December, and then he played for the Leafs in the playoffs. A good player, and I think they want to see a lot more. And based on what Daniel Milstein, his agent, said when they announced the extension, he wanted to be in Toronto, and he was prepared to take a little less based on the Leafs' current cap constraints to get things done. So it's a good deal all the way around, and we can only hope that Mikheyev sort of steps off where he left off at the end of last season before he got injured.
Yeah, this team is built with layers. The core group of talent that was drafted and continues to develop circa 2015, 16, 17. And then the players who've come on to support those guys over the last few weeks. And then let's not forget about the Nick Robertsons and the Ilya Mikheyevs pushing towards the ultimate goal of winning a Stanley Cup. And Mikheyev does indicate that, look, this team does have players who are coming through the pipeline, who've burst through, and who will eventually make a difference when the Leafs need to make some changes down the line.
There's been a level of depth established by Kyle Dubas with the signings that they've made in free agency and the trade of Andreas Janssen for Joey Anderson, who could fight for a sort of a third, fourth line job with this team. I mean, when I posed my question to Kyle Dubas during his conference call on Sunday, I said, you've got 15 or 16 NHL level forwards and 8 or 9 NHL defensemen. And now the question is, are you done acquiring players in free agency? Are you done because you still have to sign Travis Dermott, which we'll talk about in a second? I mean, and he said, well, we're never done, but the willingness of players to maybe come and sign with the Leafs now might be less because they see all the players that they have, and now they don't know whether there's an opportunity for them to get into the lineup. So, there are really good players still left in free agency, but, the Leafs have loaded up and they might not be able to attract somebody to come here unless, there's another sort of bullet left in the chamber with Kyle Dubas and he makes a trade and trades, 2 or 3 for 1 or something like that. But I mean, more than likely they're done making major moves this offseason, and we just have to wait until training camp to see how it all works out.
Yeah, this plan was more calculated than just bringing a mishmash of players together.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that there was a focus on veterans, on players who could sort of make the room more, I would say, more not more emotional, but more involved. More, I mean, I don't know how many times I heard like people like Ray Ferraro or Pierre Maguire during games, during the regular season, or even in the playoffs, that they said there just wasn't a lot of chatter going on on the bench. And, with teams that like Tampa Bay or Dallas that had success in the playoffs, there was, accountability and sort of a verbalization of what was going on. And they didn't really hear that going on the Leafs bench. Now, when you get Zach Bogosian and Wayne Simmons and Joe Thornton, you've added
Yep.
that. So that is something that is not going to be in short supply. And, the big players like Marner and Matthews and Tavares just have to do what Marner, Matthews, and Tavares have always done, which is score. And bringing that character that was missing is the job of the players that they brought in.
Go be stars. Go win an effing Stanley Cup.
Mhm.
This is the Leafs Convo for Oakridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. OG's Converse, thanks for all of your support. We're closing in on 3,000 subs on YouTube. Thank you for doing what you do. If you are a part of our community but haven't hit the subscribe button yet, do it. Smash it. Crush it. Just don't destroy your device or your laptop or whatever piece of machinery you're using to listen to Mike and I collab, because we're going to need you in the long haul. Some of our recent items: Let's Do This, Maple Murray, Change Agents, We Want Joe, We Dem Boys, all there for the listening to. So go ahead and do that. Mike, you mentioned Travis Dermott, restricted free agent. What is Travis Dermott to this team over the next few years? Can this guy emerge to become a stalwart? Because we know his talent's incredible, coming up through the Erie Otters system, playing with Connor McDavid, and then joining the Maple Leafs to, considerable fanfare. He's in terms of name recognition, he's lost in the shuffle because there are so many superstars on this team. But is this guy ready to break out, like really truly break out, and can he, or will he be one of those guys at the end of the day who really is a third, fourth defenseman at best?
He has all the tools to be what I think the Leafs have expected him to be, which was a top four defenseman. But really last year, I don't think he stepped up from being more of a bottom pairing guy, even when they had to elevate him in the lineup when Riley and Muzzin were hurt late in the year. I mean, it was last year was sort of disappointing. He didn't really produce offensively, and he has offensive tools. I've seen him,
does.
With Erie in the OHL and with the Marlies. He's a great skater. He has some offensive creativity. He just really hasn't translated that into success or that kind of production at the NHL level. And, that may keep his price down in terms of a contract for this upcoming year. It's very possible he takes the qualifying offer or something close to it. Right now with, like I said, 8 or 9 NHL defensemen, he's probably going to be, I would say, on the bottom pairing or fighting for playing time.
Wow.
I think they expected more. I mean, you got to realize they didn't bring in Zach Bogosian just to be a 7th or 8th defenseman. I think they brought him in here to play and be a penalty killer and a veteran presence. And Mikko Lehtinen, the defenseman they signed from the KHL, is thriving with Oakridge right now. And a lot of people have indicated that they believe he's a top 6 defenseman in the NHL. And if they signed him, they're going to give him an opportunity. So, it's up to Dermott to fight for, his playing time. And right now, I think he's going to be in a battle. And that's why there's a lot of speculation about potential trades, because they almost have too many bodies. Now, they can put Rasmus Sandin down with the Marlies, but if the AHL doesn't play, then you're going to have a taxi squad of players, and they may rotate some of them in and out, not just sit there and be dormant all year. So it's going to be a battle for Travis Dermott.
Dermott's an example of an unfortunate example of how the Leafs really were never going to be built 100% organically. The young crew was there, the drafting and the developing, but there comes a time when additions would need to be brought in to augment the group, to bolster it, to make it stronger. So those who believe that Kyle Dubas was just going to build a team from scratch and have that team entirely win a Stanley Cup have to be disappointed. But who cares, right? Because most of the fan base is thinking, win a Stanley Cup with the core group of players. But if you have to supplant one or two or three or four with personnel from outside the organization, young or old, you do it.
Well, if you remember, I mean, in 2016, after this team finished last overall and it drafted Austin Matthews, I don't know if it was the Hockey News or ESPN or one of the, you know, pundits who was evaluating the strength of the organization had the Leafs as the number one organization in hockey in terms of their young assemblage of
Mike, the
talent.
team did win a Calder Cup. And when you have an organization that has a Calder Cup champion, the expectation is the bulk of those players will move on to the NHL and do great things. We've seen it happen with other organizations, and the Leafs were on their way. And then it didn't go much further than that.
Well, and the point that I was making was the fact that, okay, that group, you know, which included Matthews and Marner and Nylander, who at that point had only played like 20 games in the NHL, also included Connor Brown, also included Zach Hyman, Andreas Janssen, and Kasperi Kapanen. And now three of those guys, Kapanen, Janssen, and now recently Connor Brown with the contract he just signed today with Ottawa, they're making over $3 million a year. And that's the thing. It's like for 2 years, well, actually for 3 years, up until the 2018 season, this team had all or most of those players making on their entry level deal, or, you know, I think in the case of Connor Brown, I think he was making $2 million the last year before he was traded. They didn't win anything. Why didn't they win anything? Because Kyle Dubas kept everyone, didn't trade anyone, and didn't improve the area of the team that needed to be improved, which was defense. And now we've seen them upgrade with TJ Brody. We've seen them upgrade with Jake Muzzin. We've seen them add a character guy in Zach Bogosian. Those were moves that needed to be made 2 or 3 years ago for this team to have success in the playoffs. And now 4 years into, you know, all these young players being on this organization, they still have not won a first round match.
Mike, can we criticize the timing of this, or is it this is the moment, this is the process, and in time, the Leafs will put themselves in position to complete the mission?
Most of the time, and I'm not saying it's impossible that this happens, but most of the time, teams win their cups with their star players either on entry-level contracts or their second contract. Now, in the NHL, the reality is now, you know, that second contract, that bridge deal has been eliminated because these players want to get paid right away. But, you know, Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane won most of their cups, won the first one on their entry-level contract and the second and third cups on their second contract before they were making over $10 million a year. Same thing with Getzlaf and Perry in Anaheim in 2007. They won when they were on their entry-level contracts. There are numerous examples. Drew Doughty was on his second contract with the Kings when they won their 2 cups. When you're overburdened by big money, then you can't usually add, you know, that supplemental or secondary level of player to be able to help the star players. Now, the one benefit, and we've seen this now for a couple of years with the Leafs, is they can attract players like Thornton, like Simmons from the GTA who, A, want to finish their career in Toronto to be closer to family, but B, while they still have something left, they want to win a cup with the Leafs because the Leafs haven't won a cup in 53 years. That is a great magnet for this organization that allows them to be able to pull talent to the club that other teams might not be able to. So it can sort of defer that problem of paying 3 guys over $11 million or close to $11 million in the case of Marner, and still be able to add secondary players. But you've seen they've basically cut out the entire middle class of this organization, with Janssen being traded and Kapanen being traded, and a couple of years ago Brown being traded. They're probably, you know, they've probably cleared out Andreas Janssen for the immediacy of clearing cap space. But I'm fairly sure that they traded him because they want to re-sign Zach Hyman, who's got a year left in his contract, and they had to clear that over $3 million salary of Janssen's to be able
William
to do
Nylander's
that.
still on the team, and I honestly, I just don't see him, at least right now, being moved. Marner Some think he can be moved, and there are ways to do it. Wouldn't it just be nice for all of these dudes to come together and win a Stanley Cup together? Forget about having to move one to bring in others. Let's, with this group, move forward. Reading over the past week and a bit, the reaction to the Joe Thornton signing, and I've had some conversations personally with hockey fans, and there's still a group of people who think this is a stupid signing and that the Leafs are wasting money. I don't get it. It's a no lose. They're not committed to the guy for an extraordinary period of time. He's got a no movement clause. If it doesn't work out, or they can't find a way to insert him into the lineup and have him be effective, they just cut him a check and say goodbye. What's the big deal?
Yeah, I mean, it's the prototypical definition of a low risk or no risk signing. He's making the veteran minimum $700,000. I think people are looking at is the fact that he's a former Hart Trophy winner, so they see that and they say, I can't imagine him, taking a fourth line center role.
He's 40,000 years old. Who cares? He knows what he's there to do, and the Leafs know why they got him.
He said it himself in his conference call on Sunday. Whatever Sheldon wants me to do, whether it's to play wing, whether it's to play third line center, whether it's to play fourth line center, I will do. So I don't think there's preconceived notions on Thornton that he's all of a sudden going to come in and play on the first power play or demand 20 minutes a night. It's not happening. He knows what his role is. His role is to come in and help the group that has not been able to get past the first round, to get past the first round, to challenge for a Stanley Cup. And Thornton didn't come here unless he thought this team could challenge for a Stanley Cup. I know there are some people out there that are laughing and saying, oh my God, this team hasn't won in 53 years. So why would he come to Toronto to win a Stanley Cup? Well, the Dallas Stars didn't make the Stanley Cup final in 20 years. They made the Stanley Cup final. Anything can happen as long as you have a good enough overall team. And we've seen that this team is sort of inches away. They have the core talent. They just need those one or two pieces that gets them further.
Layers of talent, layers of reasons why this team is, like you said, inches away. And I'm more excited about the team because of what's happened recently than I have been in quite some time. OGs, converts, have your say in community. Build off of our conversation regarding Joe, regarding Dermott, regarding the team, the way it's built, where you think it's going to go. We appreciate everything you contribute to the Leafs Convo on YouTube, but not only YouTube, all platforms. Hit the sub button. Let us know you care, because we care about you. Mike, before we go, let us know what you're working on and where we can find it.
At hockeybuzz.com, obviously. But the next week or so, I think we're just going to reflect on what the Leafs have done over the last couple of weeks, where we think the team stands now. Obviously, right now, we don't know when the regular season is going to start, and whether there's going to be an American Hockey League season or an OHL season, and that's going to affect whether a player like Nick Robertson plays with the team, goes to play for Team USA at the World Junior, or goes and plays for Peterborough. I mean, a number of factors, and probably starting early next month, I'll start doing the top 30 prospects within the organization. So
my phone is blowing up over this Broncos, so I better get to it. Mike, have a good one.